सलाम, नमस्ते, गुड इवनिंग, सत श्री अकाल दोस्तों। आज हमारे साथ एक खास मेहमान जुड़ी है न्यूयॉर्क से, फराह उस्मानी जी। मैं फराह उस्मानी जी के बारे में आप सबको कुछ-कुछ बता देती हूँ। वैसे तो आप काफ़ी कुछ जानते हैं इनके बारे में, लेकिन कुछ बातें मैं बता देती हूँ। Farah ji is an international health and development professional working on policy and programming, focusing on women and girls. Farah ji is currently serving as director at the United Nations Population Fund, New York. Farah ji, आपका बहुत-बहुत स्वागत है नर्चर लाइफ टॉक्स में।
बहुत बहुत शुक्रिया सहर एंड ग्रीटिंग्स फ्रॉम द कोल्ड मॉर्निंग इन न्यूयॉर्क सिटी। बेहद खुशी है आपसे इस नर्चर लाइफ के फोरम में मिलके एंड इंडीड इज अ प्लेजर टू बी एसोसिएटेड विद द इम्पोर्टेंट पर्पस ऑफ योर ऑर्गेनाइजेशन।
थैंक यू सो मच, थैंक यू सो मच। फराह जी, मैं एक शेर के साथ हमारी बातों का आगाज करना चाहूंगी, क्या इजाजत है?
जी बिल्कुल।
वाकिफ कहाँ जमाना हमारी उड़ान से, वाकिफ कहाँ जमाना हमारी उड़ान से, वो और थे जो हार गए आसमान से, वो और थे जो हार गए आसमान से। ये फहीम जोगापुरी जी का कलाम है। और अब हम अपनी बातों का सिलसिले का आगाज करेंगे। तो हमारा सबसे पहला सवाल आपसे कुछ यूं है, बचपन, शुरुआती दौर, घर और अपने शहर के बारे में कुछ बताइए।
जी ज़रूर। मेरी पैदाइश जो है वो मध्य प्रदेश के ग्वालियर शहर में हुई थी एंड मेरे नाना जो थे वो आई स्पेशलिस्ट थे वहाँ मेडिकल कॉलेज में। ही वाज द डीन एंड प्रोफेसर ऑफ ऑप्थेमोलॉजी एंड जैसे पुराने ज़माने में होता था पहले मेरी मम्मा अब मेरी पैदाइश के वक्त, डिलीवरी के वक्त अपने मायके गईं, तो इसलिए ग्वालियर में मैं वहीं पैदा हुई। However, I was born into a lot of diversity, and also my journey is like a lot of diversity. My dada is actually from Kathiawar, Dasara in Gujarat, and my dadi originally belonged to Kashmir, and her family was settled in Ajmer Sharif in Rajasthan. And my nani was originally from Delhi and then went to live in Madhya Pradesh. And so there's a lot of mention in the gazettes of Gujarat and, you know, on the Hikmat practice that we did in Gwalior about my family. So it's like I was saying, it's a lot of diversity. And then what happened was that my father, he worked in Glaxo and he in Mumbai, in Maharashtra. So I started my schooling actually at Mount Carmel school in Bandra. And then after a few years, my family moved to Aligarh because my father took up a position in the foods division, you know, of Glaxo in Aligarh. And so then we made Aligarh our home, and for several years. Now, what happened that this diversity continued, and that my parents did not, you know, could not find a school of the choice for me, for both me and my sister. This is early 70s in Aligarh. So they actually sent me to a boarding school in Nainital, you know, the St. Mary's in Ramni. And so I, you know, did my studies there. And so finally, like Uttar Pradesh became our home with doing all the studies and living there. Now, I think the boarding school from my childhood, the one experience that, you know, shines to me and has very vivid memories is the 5 years I spent during schooling. You know, I went there when I was 11 to this boarding school, and then shifting from like home to the dorm, eating in the refectory and managing all on my own from 11 years, and also being shifted to being bilingual to just becoming English dominant in a boarding. And like whole lot of like changes happening. And I recall I missed home food. We never got chapatis those days in the menu. And there was like, you know, those ramni cutlets and mashed potatoes. Students from all over India, including some foreign countries.
Students.
Yeah, and you know, so the diversity, my childhood, like I said, it's full with, you know, these experiences. And I remember, you know, those 100 beds in the dorm with the blue bed covers. And but overall, I would say that, you know, my experience was a positive experience of the boarding. And I actually saw many of, you know, my friends and others, for them, it was not. And I believe that that was the reason which I ensured for my children, that the reason was that my parents had sent me because they wanted the best education, you know, not because they
Absolutely.
wanted to
Yeah.
send me away. And so there was a difference. And I think that that really led to the, to that. And then I was privileged that in my family, and particularly my maternal family, girls' education and education was like, a norm. And
Mm-hmm.
my mother, my mother actually, she had a master's in chemistry, and my one of my khalas was already a doctor. And and my mother had a very strong determination to give both the daughters, very good education. And we can reflect, in those days sending daughters to boarding school, would not have been very common. And but my parents broke through.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Yeah, my parents
उस
broke.
जमाने में छोटे शहरों से बाहर भी निकालना बहुत नामुमकिन सी बात होती थी और बहुत ज्यादा दबे लचे माहौल में परवरिश होती थी। इसी से मैं आपसे जुड़ा हुआ एक सवाल पूछना चाहूंगी कि आप डॉक्टर हैं, तो ये
जी।
ख्वाब आपने खुद देखा या आपको इस ख्वाब से रूबरू कराया गया? क्योंकि लड़कियों को उस दौर में सिर्फ 3 चॉइसेस मिलती थी, टीचर, डॉक्टर या हाउसवाइफ।
हाँ, सो जैसे मैंने कहा कि मेरे नाना डॉक्टर थे, ही वाज एन आई सर्जन। एंड
या
छुट्टियों में हम अपने ननिहाल जाते थे। एंड
या
आई हैव अ वेरी इंटरेस्टिंग मेमोरी कि जब हम
या
ग्वालियर गए तो मेरे नाना ने अपने क्लिनिक में हम लोगों को अलाउ करा। एंड ही फर्स्ट टाइम ही मेड अस आल्सो वॉच अ कैटरैक्ट ऑपरेशन, लाइक दैट वाज हिज प्राइवेट नर्सिंग होम
हाँ
आफ्टर द
हाँ
टाइम। And I still remember, it is still there, that because it as like a a young person, I was very
या
impressed. And they, maybe that influenced my choice. But I always wanted to be a doctor. I found science fascinating. I loved maths too. But I really wanted to be a doctor always. And just recently, actually, we used to have those spool tapes जो चलते हैं ना,
हाँ
पहले
हाँ
पुराने समय में spool लगाते before the cassettes and all. So we had this spool tape at home, and many years later, I heard a recitation in that spool tape from when I was 8 or 9 years old, where I'm actually speaking on why I want to become a doctor. And which is interesting for me because I didn't remember it when I heard it, and why and my dad actually really remembers it, and he's 92 today, and he was telling me the other day about that recording, and that we lost those spools and that somehow, but yeah. And so basically, to do my medicine, then Aligarh was my choice, but I also got admission in Gwalior. And that's an interesting story because after I got admission, they actually said that I'm not a domicile of MP because we never lived there, or my parents lived there. And yeah, and because we didn't live or grow up or study there, and so the criteria of the domicile didn't work. And so, but Aligarh was my preference because we had been outside home for a long time, and so we wanted to stay at home. And yeah. But to answer your question on the choices, आप जो पूछ रही हैं ना,
या
choices बहुत
जी
अच्छा question है. So I got to choose. I got to choose the area of my specialization. I got to choose my, later on to do public health and my master. So I got the choice of the selection.
what you wanted to
Um,
do. Yeah.
yeah, but I understand, and it's a good reflection that not many young women get the sort of choices, either financial, social barriers, there are security barriers जो आप कह रही हैं, travel नहीं कर सकते,
जी
marriage,
बिल्कुल
yeah. And so there are a lot of barriers, and but I have a reflection which I've also discussed, with that perhaps not having a brother helped. It's a very interesting because there's no research on that, but it helped in women becoming stronger, and when they don't have this competition with the brother. But I guess it's a theme for more exploration. Yeah.
It's a very beautiful topic which you are telling us right now कि अगर भाई ना हो तो इतना ज्यादा आपको मजबूरी नहीं होती अपने आप को प्रूफ करने की, आपको प्रूफ करने के मौके भी मिल जाते हैं। सो इट्स रियली गुड। फराह आपा, मैं आपसे इससे जुड़ा हुआ एक सवाल पूछूंगी। आपने बताया कि आप मेडिकल स्कूल में थी, आपको अपनी चॉइसेस करने का भरपूर मौका मिला। आप ऑल इंडिया मेडिकल एग्जामिनेशन की टॉपर भी रही हैं। हमेशा अव्वल, हर कंपटीशन में नंबर 1, ऐसे में हार को कैसे एक्सेप्ट करती थी?
Yeah, so yeah, I don't think it was my purpose or my definition of success to achieve these the first being top in my class and all. And yes, I was, you're very right. And right from school I was top in the entrance exam. Then apparently like I said, it's not my definition, but then somebody told me later on when I met that I may be the first Muslim woman in the UN International Service Civil Service from India, and so forth. But like I said, for me the definition of success and was different, and my journey had its twists and turns, and it was to reflect on the hard part that you're saying, that there are these and one of the highly entrenched gender norms is when people think that the achievements are not your own, you know and so that's there. And in this entrenched society, a woman has to prove more and be much more better to get the same point as a man, you know and so that's a core part of the experience. And
जो
in terms of
जो बात
how
आप बोल रही हैं, मैं
जी
उसको ऑडियंसेस को थोड़ा सा हिंदी में ही बताऊंगी कि
जी
एक औरत को एक मुकाम पे पहुंचना पड़ता है कि घर वाले भी उसकी बात सुने, उसकी बात में वजन महसूस करें। तो बेटों की बात को तो हमेशा माना ही जाता है कि बेटा है, बोल रहा है, सही बोल रहा होगा, लेकिन बेटी की बात को उतनी इम्पोर्टेंस नहीं मिलती है, तो उसके लिए बेटियों को ज्यादा मेहनत करनी पड़ती है। एम आई राइट फरापा?
so women generally,
या
and बेटियां और women हाँ, अपने काम में उनको like they have to prove much more,
प्रूव मच
and so
मोर। जी।
yeah, and one of the things जो हम लोग देखते हैं that is that sort of feedback. And but in response to your question on her, and I like this poem by Faiz, and I listen to it often, and I think it sums up my response, because I hear is the the perseverance that is captured in this poem in terms of the har is nahi nigah mein manzil to justaju hi sahi. So I think the philosophy of of striving and that grit is extremely important. And I have had many
बेशक।
experience. I have had many experience that I tried after 5 years of working in Nepal. I was looking for an upward move, and I applied to several positions. I applied to a position in Bangkok and others, and I did not get selected. And then I continued to pursue and search for options, and then I moved from Nepal to the New York position, and then finally that actually turned out to the best option for me, for my family, and everything. And so the point that I'm saying, that grit and learning, being a learner and believing, and continuing to try and not losing heart is extremely important. And learning, I would say also, that you think deeply, you leverage your strengths, and with sheer grit you can move the needle in terms
एब्सोल्युटली, एब्सोल्युटली।
जस्तजू
कभी
करें.
हार नहीं माननी है, कभी हार नहीं माननी है। शायद ख्वाब मंजिल इतना सफाई से ना दिखे हमें, लेकिन
Yeah.
जस्तजू हमेशा रहनी चाहिए है वहां तक पहुंचने की, जो भी ख्वाब है जहन में, दिल में बंद। फराह आपा, अगला सवाल कुछ यूं है कि आपने एक बार बताया था कि आप एमबीबीएस की पढ़ाई करी थी जब आपकी शादी तय हुई थी।
Yes.
क्या क्या सोच थी उस वक्त की शादी करनी है या नहीं, या अपनी शर्तों पर करनी है, और अगर शर्तें थी तो क्या थी?
यस, मेरी शादी हो गई थी जब मैं सेकंड प्रोफेशनल एग्जाम में थी. एंड एक्चुअली आई गॉट engaged 1.5 years before that. So right after, like a year or so after joining my MBBS, I got engaged. And yeah, and my everybody thought it was a good match. And then I got married later on. But the condition of the discussion, and my parents really supported me on that, was that I would complete my studies. They made this condition, like based on what I said, that that I will have complete my studies and work, and that was and not insist on marriage at that time. And at that point of time, there can be like a fear of rejection, which we were fine. Like if this condition is not met, then like, listen, then this is not the person for me. It may be a really great person, but then, which was quite a decision, but my parents took it, and that's how it happened. And my husband fully respected this. So I got very lucky, not only MBBS, like I completed my specialization MD after my marriage. And later on, like I said, I went to do a master's in health policy at the London School of Economics. And, so basically the point I want, मुझे ये कहना है कि marriage is barrier नहीं है women's education. ये basically, however, it is really important to negotiate with the spouse and to ensure that there's like a common purpose and vision. And I understand that you have to take the risk for refusal, but you need to, speak your mind. And there are good supportive men out there, and I hope in the next generation there will be many more.
Yeah.
But I have one important point here, that I think, this negotiation and all can also be done in sort of a formal contract. And I would like to advocate for a Nikah-nama format options that includes various dimensions for the couple to sign and agree on, because it's difficult for them to like orally say, lots of families. And so the model, and many organizations I know are working on this model Nikah-nama, for equitable marriage. And I think it will
I guess it's the need of hour. Yeah, it should be, incorporated very soon, because I guess that will give a lot of boost to women, working women, continue working after marriage and after kids also. समाज में एक मानसिकता है कि जब शादी होती है तो औरतों को दिखा दिया जाता है कि अब बच्चे पैदा करने हैं, घर को संभालना है, बच्चों की जिम्मेदारी तुम्हारी है, पति कमा के ला रहा है। तो दोनों भी बच्चों को संभाल सकते हैं, दोनों भी काम कर सकते हैं। आपने बहुत, इट्स अ वेरी ब्यूटीफुल इनिशिएटिव फराबा, प्लीज इसको थोड़ा सा और बताइए हमारी ऑडियंसेस को।
The Nikah-nama one?
Yeah.
Okay. So basically what we are saying, that it's difficult for people to negotiate, at the time of marriage, that you're, going to have allow for the education, which is, the right. You're not going to give like regular triple talaq, just like that. You're not going to be abusive, domestic abuse. So the thing is that the normal printed form, which the priest, the Maulana, comes for signatures, right? There's a format which is just standard. In fact, the only thing written there is meher. The idea is that within the Sharia concept, to develop this Nikah-nama, which has many more rights of women which are there. Violence and, health, caring, asking permission before marrying again. So the point is that let's write all of them there, okay, in this model Nikah-nama, which these professional organizations are working on, and some drafts are already there. So let's have this, let's have this format and option, so that if a person is signing, they will need to cancel. Okay. So which is like a thing, and and so it is nuanced, and there will be many options and discussions, which is what the I'm not a specialist in that, the specialists have developed, and to and so the idea is that, can we take it forward? This is a big one, where everybody who has this format in a state level or something is adapted in that language, and then everybody is using the standard equitable contract, not that other one. This also includes entitlements within marriage, and as well as when after separation, because that's again a huge issue.
It is a big issue.
Basically, this model Nikah-nama is saying to create that debate and discussion and get agreement. So it's like a movement. It needs to catch up steam. And
let's hope for the best. It will be a very revolutionary move if this Nikah-nama will be incorporated in our society. फरापा, आप इसी से मैं, आपने जो बात मुझसे बताई अभी के शादी के बाद, why women have to quit their jobs, so उसी से एक सवाल निकलता है, वो कुछ यूं है, as a working women, आपको क्या लगता है कि आजकल रिलेशनशिप्स इतनी ज्यादा टूट क्यों रही हैं? क्या है वो बैलेंस जैसे आज के रिलेशनशिप्स में लोग अटेन नहीं कर पा रहे हैं?
So I think that the earlier balance of subordination, which was there, is changing. And so the बराबरी और जो relationship का balance है वो change हो रहा है, where women are, you know, understanding their rights and are now wanting, they are reflecting on the status of subordination, etc. Now, this balance, because this is happening, is making the men uncomfortable. Okay. And so the comfort level there is decreasing, and hence so I did in this balance, actually the men are the one who needs to understand that in today's context, you know, we need to have like a partner, we need to have equal relationships, etc. And that sort of norm needs to be built up. And but the both partners have to work in this balance. Okay. So it's not like one in similarly. And so in terms of, like, let's say I can think of an example that, you know, I gave up my career once, like a better job or whatever you define the better in there, to go and work in, like, you know, rural place, and in a place in PMS in Sonbhadra, because my husband was there. Then he gave up several years later and took a less prestigious job in Kathmandu because we wanted to be in our family. What I'm saying, that we need to invest in this balance or in these relationships, yeah, and we need to. And one of the things, this is important, which was my guilt for several years. You know, I had this guilt in this balance dimension, that I was not able to give time to the children as how much I would like to. You know, I would not be able to participate in all the parent-teacher meeting, attend all the events. I remember I missed my son's school graduation due to travel. And but however, I do not have this guilt now. And I would like to, you know, there are two clear reasons for this, which I would like to share. And one is that now we have this groundbreaking research, many studies now, including from this Harvard professor called Kathleen McGinn, which has found that adult kids of working moms are high achievers at work. Okay. So that's one. The second thing, which is more interesting, is that they're not only high achievers that work, that the happiness in adulthood of the children of stay-at-home moms and working moms is equal. Okay. So what I'm trying to say, the guilt was that, you know, it will impact, and that's what we keep thinking. And then Kathleen McGinn's research is my lived experience too. If it helps people not to feel guilty and go into workplaces, that, you know, it turned out to be my lived experience, that both my children, mashallah, have, you know, they landed up doing well for themselves and going to very good schools, and, you know, they're doing very well in the jobs in Yale, Columbia, or wherever. And of course they worked hard, but it was the shared responsibility of the parent. But there's no, you know, what this is saying, that the guilt which working moms have of that needs to, you know, slowly be weaned away, and to other quality time and other aspects that you can. And there is no difference then in happiness as well. In happiness, there's no difference. In achievement is actually higher. Yeah.
And one more thing I'll add to it, Farapa. This is a very important point, that, you know, working women, when they get married and because of children, they quit their jobs. So they are not happy doing what they are doing. But if a woman who is, you know, already very established, and, you know, she's given a chance because of the supported family, the supported husband, that, you know, you go and do your job. So that will give her a lot of fulfillment. And she will do this job of a mother also 100%.
Totally.
With her, yeah. So that is a very important aspect. Another question जो बहुत important है, जो आज की समस्याओं पे based है, वो कुछ इस तरह से है. Earning more than your spouse एक बड़ी समस्या बनकर उभरती है for females. साउथ एशियन कंट्रीज में अगर औरत मर्द से ज्यादा कमाती है तो उसे मर्द की बेइज्जती क्यों समझा जाता है, बल्कि औरत की कामयाबी क्यों नहीं?
Okay, that's an interesting question. And perhaps you have guessed that this may be the case with me, which is, and
with many women nowadays, yeah.
And so but you know, the labor force participation among women is one of the lowest in India. So there would be this case, but we need to it's also that, you know, so there are two issues for this reason, in my view. One is, you know, the lower value given to women's work, and that women globally actually earn only 70 cents to a dollar. And the second issue of why this aspect that you are saying that samasya hai कि zyada paisa hai is actually the issue of self-esteem and the toxic masculinity, yeah, and the gender norms like related to that aspect. And so which is why let's say for Javed and me personally, this was not an issue, and I'll tell you what the reasons were. And so the reason was first that my husband is an MBA from IIM Ahmedabad, and he actually gave up a lucrative corporate job or career to join the civil services. So his values and purposes are different, and this is not important. The step ladder of success is not financial or any aspect.
Absolutely.
Second reason is more important and more applicable to everyone, is that the person is very comfortable in their purpose of life and in their own skin, in their own esteem. And so the izzat is not linked to somebody's earning. The izzat is linked to their self-esteem about themselves. And so if a person is, really confident in themselves, etc., and this is a norm to propagate, to say that when you are doing domestic violence or when you are doing abusive violence like this one about earning or anything, actually it's a lack in the of your confidence and your self-esteem, which is there. And there is data, there's no data available on this one about the earning, but there is data available on the violence issue, that men who are confident, responsible, and have a clear purpose and all, they are less likely to beat their wives at home. And so basically what I'm saying, that it's the narrative and the norm, to change, that we need to look at, and in this I don't know if that's the right word, which I call like a little toxic masculinity.
Yeah.
And there are ads, and you are also in the in this world of media and advertisement. There are ads like the one that I remember of Ariel washing powder commercial, which are giving very sensitively these messages.
Yeah, they are.
Yeah,
and सिर्फ औरत का काम नहीं है, जिम्मेदारियां बांटो. It's beautiful. Yeah.
And also changing this gender stereotypes, and through
that this is औरत का काम, this is आदमी का काम. So it's so beautifully put, and बहुत आसानी से लोगों को समझ में भी आएगा. तो मुझे लगता है कि ऐसा ज्यादा होने लगे सोसाइटी में, तो it will bring a change. There's a very important question viewer is asking, कुछ यूं है, ये भी बहुत सुनने में आता है कि working earning girls की वजह से घर टूट रहे हैं.
So yes, okay. So it's sort of what I said earlier. It's the balance of keeping the ghar tootna. आपने भी ये question पूछा था पहले, relationship, आपने कहा था relationship to balance in the relationship.
Balance.
Yeah. So what I'm saying is that the blame. Why are we saying that the working girls reason is her whole responsibility for keeping? So what the point I'm making, that the responsibility for the partnership on the family lies with both parties, with both the partners, and should in this relationship. And hence, if we are doing shared work together, if we are having common goals, and we are partners supporting each other, when like for example, I can give example right now, that looking at the time when the person is away or traveling, you are looking after the child care, to phir ghar kyun tootega? But tab tootega when the expectation is that this person is away, and hence I'm not getting food, and hence the baby is crying, etc. So the norm of that needs to change for that balance, and certainly the blame of this cannot go. In fact, it is both parties who need to make it work. But very good question.
There's another very good question which I'm going to ask. Marriages are beautiful, जो कि आपने काफी अपनी खूबसूरत सी कहानी बताई हम लोग को. सपोर्टिव पार्टनर का ड्रीम हर किसी का होता है, लेकिन आयरनी ये है कि ज्यादातर लोग जानते ही नहीं सपोर्ट कब और कैसे करना है.
अच्छा,
सपोर्टिव पार्टनर की क्या भूमिका होती है एक शादी में? अभी हमारी सपोर्टिव पार्टनर की बात हो रही थी, तो व्हाट इज द रिस्पॉन्सिबिलिटीज अ सपोर्टिव पार्टनर शुड टेक?
yeah, no, again, a very good question on getting to the specifics of the support. Yeah, and which is what your question is, that of course we want to be
बिल्कुल.
supportive, but what is the specifics? Okay, so
Yeah.
I can give several specifics from my life. So one is, let's say that one specific support was that my husband actually encouraged me to do my masters at London School. So he himself had studied at LSE, and he found the experience enriching, and so he wanted, and that I should and try it, and then I was motivated. And so that support, to say that, we had already had 2 children, and so we did have an argument a little bit about, because I was insisting on taking my daughter to London when I went to study. And then finally, actually, he took the responsibility, and he said, you will not be able to do justice to either if you do that, and I will take the responsibility of that childcare during that year. So that would be a definition. And in the long term, so you are looking at the longer term and the happiness of both parties when you are saying that. There are many other examples, including that, for, let's say that when we were living in London as students again, and we obviously didn't have some money. So I was doing, this is actually an interesting story. So I was doing a part-time job with a doctor, like from 4 p.m. to 8 p.m. And then he would finish his classes till 3 o'clock and be home at 4 so that I could go, or at 3:30. So that's how we had worked it out. And so, and during the 4 to 8 period that I was working, that he was responsible for the one. We had one child, 1-year-old child, for, because we did not have a nanny, etc. Now, the good thing that happened, so that's again a support that you are allowing, and then you are volunteering in those 4 hours to look after. Now, another good thing, which is like a side effect of this story, happened was that, that he had to finish all his classes by 3 o'clock. So he had to take all the courses which had to be finished in the morning. There were some courses in evening and all he could not take. So he did that, but because of that, he had to take a course on gender and development. And so he actually studied in depth these areas and understand the nuances, which then landed up to be helpful for me later on.
Absolutely, it's so supportive. Like, बहुत ही उम्दा बात आपने बताई कि अगर सपोर्टिव पार्टनर है तो उसकी क्या चीजें हैं, उसके क्या स्पेसिफिक्स हैं कि कैसे प्रूफ करे कि हाँ इज अ सपोर्टिव पार्टनर. एंड शायद उनका सपोर्ट नहीं होता तो मतलब एक सक्सेसफुल औरत के पीछे भी एक सक्सेसफुल आदमी का, एक गुड पार्टनर का हाथ होता है. So that is proven in your life. And of course, your chemistry with Javed sir is a living example for all of us. So the next question is again very important, ma'am. It is औरतें मल्टीटास्किंग है, उनको कुदरती तौर पर ये महारत हासिल है, लेकिन हमारे समाज में सोच कब बदलेगी घर का काम सिर्फ औरत की जिम्मेदारी है? औरत की तरक्की में ये बात हमेशा एक बैरियर बन के उभरती है, ऐसा क्यों? ये सवाल हम थोड़ा बहुत कवर कर चुके हैं, लेकिन अगर आप इसको कुछ बताना चाहें, कुछ बोलना चाहें तो.
I think I can highlight here this what is defined as the burden of unpaid care. This is like now technically research जो आप कह रही हैं, है ना? तो इसको कहते हैं कि ये जो काम घर का कर रही हैं, ये अनपेड काम तो है, पूरे घंटे काम कर रही हैं. And but it is called, like, the definition of the burden of unpaid care, and in economic analysis we have also tried to put like a monetary value to it, to try to say that, like, if this person is working for so many hours at home, if it means that much contribution, etc. But data, interestingly, and so this is actually a global phenomena, and data from several countries shows that women spend 3 times as many hours in unpaid domestic work as men. So this is like even being quantified in terms of looking at that. And so what happens is that why this burden, this unpaid care work, which is जो आपने अपने question में पूछा है, is that the socio-cultural norm defines household task at a lower esteem. Okay, so it's at a lower esteem. So I believe that that it is actually bad for men too. And I'll explain that many men, and this again, like from research, want a role in childcare. They are attached to their child, okay, and they want a role. And but they think that they will appear soft in front of their mother-in-law, whatever, if they do things like changing the diaper, or if they like want to bathe the child. So they are also at a disadvantage in this phenomena, because the norm doesn't allow them. The norm says only the woman will say. The norm does not even allow them. It does not allow them to cry. It does not allow them to do many things, which many men are there. So one needs to look at the whole thing and allow as a person. So the two people are people, and whoever wants to do whatever or feels good or feels happy in there, it's all right if women do the task and all. There is a story about ironing and something, and that if they it is their choice, you know. But here that the burden, the word burden comes in, that you're given the burden, that then makes it like really a problem, you know. And
Absolutely.
in fact, I'm reminded of, you know, so we actually have, and this is it's also for your viewers who are, you know, it looks like interested in this issue. So we have an initiative with UN Women. It's on the website. It is called He for She. उसमें क्या है कि he for she में बहुत सारे actors, professionals, बहुत सारे prominent people have come and signed up to say criteria है कि हम ये करेंगे. तो ऐसे ये वाला movement campaign, actually it's a campaign, He for She शुरू हुआ, और अब I believe more than 3 million people are you know, have put their commitment on He for She. So it's like a movement for exactly the type of questions you are asking, you know, that how to change the norm, you know, through different ways. But actually, Sahar, you're asking me a lot of these questions with reference to like our partnership. And I think next time I should have like my husband also there giving a perspective.
Yeah. We should do that. It will be great if Javed sir is here with you, and you know, we get a beautiful perspective from a man and a woman enjoying a beautiful relationship and a very successful married life. So इसी से जुड़ा हुआ हमारा एक आगे का बहुत खूबसूरत सवाल कुछ यूं है. The world need more mothers because they fill a role in the family that no one else can. औरतों के इस रूप को आप कैसे बयां करेंगी? माँ बनने के लिए औरत का सही मायनों में एजुकेटेड होना कितना जरूरी है आपकी नजर में? और बात यहाँ एजुकेटेड होने की है, लिटरेट होने की नहीं है.
Okay. So certainly, बिल्कुल ही जो आपने कहा कि, you know, the role of mothers to in the family, certainly no one can take. But I mean, this is actually our slogan we use in work, but I would say that would be my personal bayan too, that no woman should die giving life, you know. And so what I'm saying is that despite the fact that mothers are important and child, every day, you know, 800 women die in childbirth. And now this woman is giving us 9 months notice. This mother is giving us 9 months notice कि यार मुझे बचा लो, मुझे safe delivery करवा लो कहीं, है ना? And so it is really not acceptable. It's not acceptable that what I'm talking about is preventable mortality, maternal mortality. Yeah. So there is some which is like, you know, genetic, and others which is not preventable, but a large proportion of maternal mortality is preventable. And so those preventable things, like this mother who is giving life has to die. And it's very sad. And there are many states in India where the maternal mortality is actually quite high still. Assam, Bihar, UP, and Madhya Pradesh. Yeah. And compared to, and this is one of the, so like I said, if it's so important, this is like we are calling it a human right too. It's just not acceptable. So my slogan, bayan, would be that no woman should die life. I like your question on the education correlation, because this was very interesting, and this was actually I studied many years, and our research came out first time, I think in the early 90s, where in the survey data they suddenly found that when in the survey the mother was educated to middle school, high school, they studied all the levels, the maternal mortality, the infant mortality, जो health थी बच्चे की, वो ज्यादा अच्छी थी. तो maternal education और ये information आई कि बच्चे की health अच्छी है जब mother पढ़ी लिखी हुई है. So lots of pathways. This is actually a very very detailed research के pathways वो found कि ये होता कैसे है. ये तो पता चल गया डेटा से कि ये हो रहा है, कि हेल्थ अच्छी हो रही है जब माँ जो है बच्चे की, छोटे बच्चे की हेल्थ अच्छी हो रही है जब माँ पढ़ी हुई है. लेकिन उसके फिर पूरे there are pathways and all which like I don't remember all but I can say some of them which were studied कि ये क्यों हो रहा है. तो वो क्यों इसलिए होता था कि उन्होंने छोटी छोटी चीजें पढ़ी कि जो पढ़ी लिखी माँ है वो जब अपने छोटे बच्चे को डॉक्टर के पास लेके जाती है तो वो ज्यादा क्वेश्चन पूछती है. They found that. Then they said that जो पढ़ी लिखी माँ है वो वहां पोस्टर और ब्रोशर्स पढ़ सकती है टीकाकरण के and all. So that leads to it. Then the social capital of her, that she can then negotiate with her mother-in-law who says कि टीका जरूरी नहीं है because of her education. So lots of pathways were found on this correlation. It's a very good question that maternal education correlated with health of the child, and then there is another very in-depth work on maternal education correlated with the academic or performance of the child, and so academic outcomes and health outcomes and all. So this is really important, and like I said, for this reason, if I have to give one message, like educating the girl child, and I continue to say that the best gift my parents gave was of education, which like it's irreplaceable. That gift is irreplaceable. The dowry, a wedding party, and all those gifts are like nowhere near it. So if I have to give a message, it's like the message of like educating your daughter, your sisters, the girls. Totally.
Absolutely. बहुत खूबसूरत जवाब था ये, और मुझे लगता है कि बहुत लोगों को ये मैसेज बहुत अच्छे से समझ में आया होगा कि आज लड़कियों की तालीम कितनी ज्यादा जरूरी है. आज के कमर्शलाइज दौर में आप एक एग्जाम्पल है कि आपने अपने पैशन को कमर्शलाइज नहीं होने दिया. क्या मोटिवेशन रहा आपका?
Okay, that's a little complicated, right? And so yeah, okay. So I think there are many definitions of success, and everyone has their own definition and the purpose. And so there can be financial success, like you are setting your parameter, and that success can be wealth. The success can be fame. You are defining your success, that my success will be if I start earning this particular amount every year, or whatever. And my success will be if my status is there, or my popularity is, I don't know, 10,000 followers, whatever everybody decides. So there are these parameters of success, and everybody should define actually and reflect. Many people just go through life not doing it, but that the reflection and all, if those who are doing to reflect, it helps to carve out their thing. And so for many people the success is like a symbol of climbing the step ladder. But with this model, the problem is that of achieving our happiness, because there will always be another step and somebody will be there. So in there. Now, the definition of success that I define for myself, I mean, and it comes with several influences which you don't even know from where they are coming. There are several influences which are coming, which make you define your ability, your definition of success. Is like, for me, it was the symbolic to a pebble in a pond, and which creates the ripples. It's not a step ladder. It's like a pebble which is making and influencing lives of others, So the status is a worthy role in the lives of others. And so the pebble is making these ripples. And so a definition of success for me was to that, and that was gratifying. That is, and that continues to be a gratifying feeling for me. And, several experiences in my life, including when I, went to work in this remote place in Robertsganj in Sonbhadra district of UP. I mean, I didn't even know the name of the place when I first went there, and because my husband was posted there. And I was the only, this is a district in Eastern UP, and I was the only MD in the whole districts, and I went to the camps, to the interior tribal areas. I got to see like grassroots patients, and their problems, which I had never seen in the tertiary hospital, which I was working earlier. And I learned firsthand about the social cultural barriers. And I still remember one story, which was like moving for me, that in my clinic, there was like a family which had sold their small land for infertility treatment, from like all sorts of infertility treatment. They had done all before they came, because like somebody just said that this person can like this go or whatever. And so and so there were those sort of stories there of and of course there was no functioning operation theater in the district. I mean, this is 30 years ago, but at that point of time, and drug shortages, and all sorts of issues, which when we are working in a tertiary hospital, they don't hit you. And that how does electricity and having a road and the linkage, the integrated nature of intersectoral impact for health. So health is there, but it is impacted. Similarly, other things are impacted, and that the experience was very enriching, and that experience influences my values and maybe defined my purpose in my life, because I changed course after that.
Yeah. It's so beautiful, ma'am. From a practicing professional of medicine, you came to public health services, and you are contributing so much to the society, and we all are so proud of you. So there's another, there's another very important question, which is based on the mental health. How important is for a woman and a man to take care of the mental health? Why is it so important for a man and women both to take care of the mental health during pregnancy?
Yeah, I mean, certainly, this is a really good, and also, really, I'm happy to know that your organization, Nurture Health, is also looking at creating awareness on mental health, and particularly in time of, COVID time, it's extremely critical. So this has really come up front. I mean, as it is, we had from WHO and all the trends of, the diseases which will take over in the next phase, but COVID has really brought this mental health issue right to the top. So even before COVID, and this is nothing new, this information that I'm giving, everybody knows that about 10 to 15% of pregnant women suffered from different types of postpartum and depression during pregnancy. Because you're asking me a question of mental health in pregnancy, of course, in COVID, domestic violence and all, that's a big one for mental health. We are getting such a lot of information from all the countries about enhanced domestic abuse during this time of women, and how they can not even telephone. The telephone services, the hotline services for these women. They cannot. They are texting, and so there are lots and lots of issues, and they are whatever you call it in the house, especially in lockdown, with the abuser, not able to go, etc. And so mental health issues are certainly on the full radar. But back to the pregnancy one, is that already we were this depression during pregnancy was an issue, and the support, again, we come back to the story of the support of the partner during this phase, the spouse during this phase of depression is extremely important. What has happened now is that there are increasing reasons for the mental health in pregnancy, and one of it is this social distancing. And so because of social distancing, I mentioned the story about my why I was born in Gwalior was the reason that they went for social support, right? So for social support, pregnant women need that social
support from the maternal family.
Exactly. So, or from their friends if they're not going there. So to decrease the risk of the psychological problem, this social support is important. And due to this COVID and the inadequacy and social distancing, this is like a big one, which will impact those who are in borderline, etc. The second issue is that again, which is, we go back to the issue of what you said about maternal mortality question regarding the role as a mother, is that the hierarchy of these services and the money to these services is again at a lower level in the distribution of money. So the funding is going to the hospitals for COVID-19, and and rightly so. But the basic services for natal care, मतलब बच्चे क्या कहते हैं, delivery care,
देखभाल डिलीवरी के बाद,
yeah, and psychological health services is like decreasing because money तो उतना ही है. If you shift it there and you shift it there, so the time and the energy will be taken away from the psychological health services which previously they had access to, and this is across. So my answer is a little bit more generic globally rather than for a country, and because they are based on so by and large this is happening, and so the access to mental health services which was there earlier will decrease because of that, and hence, and the scary part is that we don't even know the long-term repercussions of this COVID-19 related to different elements, including the mental health of a whole population. I mean, there is research coming out a little bit and all, but it's actually really food for thought to say that what will happen after we get out of this 1 year with staying with a domestic abuser. What is and so that's like and we need to reimagine, reinvent, and look at really a different way for these health services, including that's the whole thing, including looking at telemedicine and many other.
I will interrupt here. I was going through a research few days back, and in that research, it was like more than women, men are suffering from postpartum depression because they're losing their jobs and they're not able to provide their families, and they're having many mental and psychological issues.
So well, definitely on that. Definitely. So I wouldn't call that postpartum in that sense, that, but the definitely men and young people. Okay. I mean, I focus just on the pregnant women, but like youth, young people, also this is, happening because of the employment. There's a whole sort of information about like how they cannot get into employment. Their education is interrupted and all. So this issue of mental health is in all. So in terms of men, certainly, and if at that point of time, very, very good point you're raising, if at that point of time, the woman is pregnant, when the person has lost the job, the frustration increases, and that's where the abuse and all is happening, by the way. So that's the dynamics. When you're losing the job, you're frustrated, and then this person's got pregnant, and so this is totally, this is like huge, and like I said, we don't even know the scale. That's the
repercussions. What is going to happen? It's really scary, but we should just work on this. Another very important question which I'm asked, it's going to be the last question before आपका हमारा साथ खत्म हो आज के शो पर. तो सवाल कुछ यूं है कि आप पश्चिम में बैठकर भी पूरब की बात करती हैं. अफसोस की बात यह है कि पूरब से लोग पश्चिम की तरफ झुकते चले जा रहे हैं, जिसकी वजह से वो अपनी आइडेंटिटी लूज कर रहे हैं, और इसी वजह से सेल्फ एक्सेप्टेंस की कमी हो रही है. ऐसी सिचुएशन में सेल्फ एक्सेप्टेंस को कैसे प्रैक्टिस किया जाए?
Okay, so I can tell from my life experience, and so for me, perhaps that's the reason why you're asking, is that I love heritage stuff. I love heritage crafts. I love their stories. I love their history. And how maybe how it's happening is that if you visit my home, the decor of my home is lots of old pieces and connected with home. So in fact, my children once told me that when we enter the home here, even in Manhattan, it looks like our Delhi home and our home in other places. So I was like, that's exactly the idea. The idea is that you are having a lot of stimulus and lot of new thing, which is also very good. But then you come inside the home and you have the safe space. I have a carved box from my ancestral home in Gujarat. In our Lucknow home, we have a rosewood sofa from my parents where I sat as a child. It's there. So we like to keep these, and so this love of heritage actually binds me, to my culture, and also my identity as a Muslim woman. I cannot divorce myself from it. Yeah, it is me. So even the parts, even the parts of that heritage or that identity which may be underappreciated, which may be disrespected, which may be misunderstood by other people. You know, it's like the whole, and I need to like work on it to you know, to make it there. I don't remove it because they are not appreciated or they are not understood by other people, right? And so that's like the part, and that's helpful. And perhaps you know, my regret is that I don't get to read so many books which I have bought on this subject, by the way, that I would like to read. Maybe someday when I retire, I'm able to give you a more nuanced communication on this, but I'm working on it. Yeah.
No, it's a beautiful question कि आपने अपने मैनहट्टन के घर को भी अपने इंडिया के घर जैसा बना रखा है, तो अपनी धरोहर को, अपनी संस्कृति और सभ्यता को आप वहां तक भी लेकर गए हैं। और वही हमारी एक दुविधा है कि आज इंडिया में लोग अपनी संस्कृति और सभ्यता को भूलते चले जा रहे हैं। शलवार सूट, साड़ी, इन कपड़ों से लड़कियों को ऐतराज है। घरों के अंदर आप देखेंगे तो सारा वेस्टर्न वर्ल्ड का फर्नीचर है, जो पुराने हमारे वुड वर्क के फर्नीचर होते हैं, तो उनको रिप्लेस कर दिया अर्बन फर्नीचर में, which is very
really nice. That's sad.
Yeah. So that is sad. So
I can't show you, but I would have liked to show you in the gallery that I have. I have like a full photo gallery of all the handicrafts of UP in this apartment.
That's brilliant. आप हमें उसका एक वीडियो शूट करके भेजिएगा, because when we will edit this our interview for the YouTube purpose, तो हम उसमें वो सब bits and pieces incorporate करा देंगे जो यहाँ पे बातें हुई हैं। आपके सोफे की जो रोजवुड का सोफा है, वो सारी चीजें हमारे ऑडियंस को हम YouTube के थ्रू दिखाना चाहेंगे। फिर आप जाते जाते हमारे ऑडियंस से आप कुछ कहना चाहेंगे, एक आखिरी बात? वैसे तो बहुत बातें हो गई है, लेकिन कोई आखिरी बात जो आपको लगता है कि बची हो हमारी।
हाँ, मुझे बस ये कहना है कि we cannot win if half the team is not in the game. Period. Okay. So if the half the country is not in the game, if half the community is not the game, if half the family is left behind, we cannot win, you know. So if that's the gist, and you know, we've discussed many action points of girls' education, of you know, model Nikah-Nama, of you know, having more communications, etc., etc. But the gist is that we need to really understand, for not only for the women's agency, for the country, for economics and all, this is hugely important. इसके लिए जुस्तजू बहुत जरूरी है. So again, we can end with you like quotes, I believe, is you know, दयारे गैर में महरम अगर नहीं कोई, तो फैज जिक्र वतन अपने रू बहरू ही सही, नहीं निगाह में मंजिल तो जुस्तजू ही सही, नहीं विसाल में असर तो आरजू ही सही.
क्या बात है, क्या बात है, आरजू ही सही, आरजू ही सही. बेशक फराह आपा, हमें आज अपना कीमती वक्त देने के लिए बहुत बहुत शुक्रिया. हमारी खुशकिस्मती है कि आप हमारे प्लेटफॉर्म पर आए और आपने बहुत इंपॉर्टेंट मुद्दों पर बहुत गहराइयों से बात की. जाते जाते मैं एक हिंदी की कुछ लाइनें, एक कविता है वो पढ़ना चाहूंगी जो नारियों के ऊपर बेस्ड है, और कुछ यूं है. सृष्टि की सृजनकार है नारी, शक्ति की हुनकार है नारी, ना समझ तू इसे अबला बेचारी, चंडी का स्वरूप है नारी, दुशासन के अंत का मूलाधार है नारी, कोमल पुष्प समान है नारी, स्वतंत्र भाव अभिव्यक्त नारी, बलिदानों की परिभाषा नारी, प्रेम का पर्याय है नारी, हाँ अधिकारी सम्मान की नारी. इसके साथ
beautiful. Yeah, thank you, Sarah, again, and also for you know, this closing poetry. And I would like to also congratulate you on your new book. You know,
thank you so much, Farah.
Yeah, and so all the best. And also thanks to Farah, all the best in your endeavor on Nurture Life. Okay.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much. Thank you so much. Bye. तो दोस्तों, अगले हफ्ते हम फिर मिलेंगे एक खास नए मेहमान के साथ. हम शुक्रगुजार हैं हमारे सोशल मीडिया पार्टनर्स के, और हमारी बातों को आप अपने दोस्तों तक पहुंचाइए, अपने घर वालों तक पहुंचाइए, उन लोगों तक पहुंचाइए जिन्हें इन बातों से कोई सीख मिल जाए. इसी के साथ अलविदा कहूंगी, अगले हफ्ते मिलने के वादे के साथ.